Hi everyone, and welcome back to the HUBient Talent channel. This is Stella Bella. Today I'm going to be talking about a topic that a lot of us experience on a day-to-day basis and something that we can't control as much as we want to, and it does affect us on a physical, emotional and mental level, and sometimes it's a positive thing, sometimes it's not so positive, and that is change. If you're like myself, who absolutely hates change and sometimes get a little bit anxious over the unknown, you'll understand that sometimes it is quite hard to adapt to change and deal with change. So today I'm going to be talking about a few different ways to deal with change and cope with change, especially when they come on unexpectedly, and how not to let it affect your day-to-day lifestyle, and how not to let it affect you on a emotional or mental level, and how to just carry on with your life and make the most out of the changes that sometimes the universe throws your way. Now first, let's talk about change that we are aware of. Of course, most changes happen suddenly, unexpectedly, but there are a lot of changes that happen in our life that are either planned or we know is going to happen, whether we can control it or not. Some changes might be positive. For example, if you have a newborn on the way, a new family member coming, or you got a promotion at work and you now have to move to a new department and adapt to different things, or you're moving house because you would like a fresh new environment. These sort of changes, whilst positive, can still wear on you mentally and physically and emotionally because it is a change. It is something different that you have to adapt to. And there are also changes that you know are coming but are not so positive. For example, if you know the company that you're working for is making yourself and a bunch of other people redundant, or if you're moving house not by choice, or you're relocating somewhere not by choice, or if you know you're going to be losing someone or something that's very special to you. Whether it's positive or negative, if you know the change is coming, try to prepare for it as much as possible. And I know it's hard for a lot of the things, especially when it's a negative change. It is hard to try to plan and prepare for something that you don't want to happen. But if that change is coming, no matter what you try to do, it's inevitable. The only thing you can do, apart from just sit and wallow, be upset about it, is to do something productive, is to prepare for it and make it as painless and as smooth as possible. And there are a lot of changes that happen in life that we don't want to happen and we know is coming. And I think that change is probably the hardest thing, when you know it's inevitable and there's nothing you can do to change it. Now, if it's a positive change, even positive changes have negative impacts. For example, having a newborn on the way is a wonderful thing, but you'll lose a lot of sleep. So how are you going to counterbalance that? Maybe you can work out some sort of a plan with your partner or other family members to take shifts as to who looks after the newborn, or delegate other responsibilities in your life so you can prepare for that moment. If you have a very busy schedule and you know all of these changes are going to happen all at once, start planning out your time, start using your other resources around you so that when that change comes, whether it's positive or negative, you're able to manage it better and not let it affect you as much as it would otherwise. Because if that change happens anyway, instead of allowing it to make things worse in your life, if there is something you can do about it, if there is something that you can do to make it less impactful on the lives and existence of yourself and the people around you, then use your time wisely and consider those factors and put some actions in place. So at least you're doing something to help the change rather than just let it run your lives completely. Now, of course, a lot of changes, unfortunately, are out of our control and there's nothing that we can do about it. It just happens. And it happens suddenly as well without notice. Now, if you are dealing with one of these changes that you absolutely can't do anything about, it's going to happen, or it has happened regardless, and it's taking you by surprise, allow yourself that time to accept it and overcome the shock of it happening, because there is going to be shock. Often we've spent a lot of time trying to build a life that we're used to, trying to build habits and comforts that bring us peace and contentment and joy. And when something happens that changes that, even slightly, it does throw us off course, and it can be a little bit traumatizing for us, even if that change is small. So if a change happens suddenly, just sit with it for a bit, allow yourself some time to think about it, get used to the idea. And if it's a change that you truly cannot do anything about, learn to accept the change. Because if you honestly can't do anything about it, there is no point trying to fight it. There is no point getting emotional and attached and upset about something you absolutely can't change. When you're constantly trying to fight something that you have no control over, It'll only create added stress in a situation where I'm sure you're already very stressed from the change itself and all the different changes that you have to deal with as a result of that change. So allow yourself some time. It is perfectly fine to be shocked, to need time to adapt to it, but approach it with more of a accepting sort of frame of mind. And rather than thinking it's a positive or a negative, just see it for what it is. It is a change, it is happening, and let your mind and body sit with that notion for a little while and adapt to that change mentally first before point number 3, accepting the change and moving past it, looking towards a future where you can incorporate that change. A lot of us, when change happens, we allow that change to consume us so much that we miss out on so many wonderful things, beautiful people, exciting situations around us, all of these amazing experiences that life has to offer because of this change. And whilst a lot of the times it is unfortunate that a change has to happen, at the end of the day, that unfortunate change has already happened and we have no control over it. So why do we let that change consume us so much that it also changes our course and the happiness and the excitement that we worked so hard for before that change? Try to compartmentalize it so that it's its own problem. Yes, you can feel sad, regret, guilt, whatever feeling you have around this change, embrace it, but compartmentalize it so that it doesn't affect other beautiful areas of your life. Because at the end of the day, when we set goals for ourselves, it's not that we set them with the intention that nothing changes in our lives, right? We have goals that might span 20, 30 years. You know, we might have retirement goals. We might have goals to start families, to build a business, build an empire. And all of that, if you think about it, requires a lot of change. In order for us to achieve those goals, there's bound to be a lot of changes that happens in order for us to reach there. These dreams are still going to exist regardless of the changes that occur in our lives. So in order for us to actually get there, we need to accept that change is a big part of what we're going to have to deal with, good or bad, whether it's changes that we have planned for or haven't planned for. Number 4, looking for the positives within the change. Now, I know a lot of things happen that there are no positives. It's a change that we would never want to have happen. So the idea of even thinking there's a positive out of it is the last thing on your mind. And that is fine. But don't focus so much on the doom and gloom either. Now, I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason in the universe. If a change happens and all you're thinking about are the negatives of the change and how unfortunate it is and the what ifs and how you could have done things differently, and all of those thoughts are counterproductive and doesn't change anything, then what you're doing is just making yourself more miserable in the process, more anxious, and just constantly living in the past. And unfortunately, the world does keep on spinning even if you choose to stand still. So when it comes to change, try to think about the positives, or at least not focus so much on all of the negatives. Some changes, unfortunately, are negative. There's nothing that we can make positive out of the situation, but there are still a lot of positive things that can revolve around a situation. For example, a lot of people who lost their jobs during the pandemic ended up finding much better careers outside of that, careers they never even thought they would have. There are social media influencers now that are earning 6-figure incomes just from being social media influencers. The only reason why they started that was because they were fired from their jobs. Clinging on to just the negative things is not a healthy way to live. And you need to step outside of that box and see some of the other more positive things that this incident may have caused to have happened that could maybe lead to better things in future, even if it doesn't feel that way right now. Number 5. It's important that once the change has happened and you've gotten used to the idea, it's time to get back into some sort of a normal routine. It does take a little bit of time to readjust your life, but when you're readjusting, readjust with a future in mind for yourself. Don't just readjust to be sad and emotional about the change, but think about what life is going to look like moving forward so that you can move yourself there. By forcing yourself to go into a normal routine, it actually calms your mind and your brain, and it tells your brain that it's time to sort of refocus yourself and rebuilding yourself. Rather than trying to let the change run your life, you are now taking back that control and you're saying that change is happening regardless, or it has happened. Now I'm going to live with it by doing this and this and this and this. And these are all the things that's going to help me move past the change, achieve all the things that I was working for in life before that change. Like humans, as the saying goes, we are creatures of habit, meaning we like routine, we like managing our time, we like knowing what's happening today. Because a lot of the times when change happens, we kind of just go, oh my gosh, let's give up everything altogether. And then we just sit and do nothing, and we're not making any changes on the change itself, we just kind of sit and let it run our lives. But having a routine means we're taking back that control. Instead of letting that change control us, take back that control so that we can start steering our own lives in the direction that we want it to go. Number 6, last but not least, and definitely I think the most important one, is practicing gratitude. Gratitude for what you have despite the change. Now I think whenever we go through change, especially when that change causes us to lose something that we once had or once thought we needed or really wanted, it's easy to focus on the thing that we lost rather than the things that we have. And while sometimes the thing that we lose is a huge, major part of our lives, or was a huge, major part of our lives, it shouldn't discount the fact that we have worked so hard to achieve all of the other things in our lives, or that we are still very fortunate and lucky to have the other things in our lives. And of course, it's always the negative things, it's always the things that we lose that we are most caught up over. Especially when we once had it and then we now don't have it. It's like we've lost something much bigger than if we never had it before. But life is meant to be full of changes. It's meant to have ups and downs. It's meant to have wins and losses. And whenever we have the losses, the downs, we focus so much on that we often forget how many wins and ups we have. But if you think about it, all it takes is one other change for us to lose the things that we have. So rather than focus on the things that we have already lost, start learning to be grateful for all the things that are still there in our lives. Be thankful for the fact that they're there. Because whatever you've lost now, I guarantee you, when you did have it, you probably didn't pay as much attention to it as you should have. You probably didn't appreciate it and were present with it as much as you should have. Use that as a lesson for yourself to really appreciate and be grateful for the things, the people, the love, the situations that you do have in your lives right now. And don't take them for granted, because you don't know what other changes might happen in future. So I hope those of you who are dealing with change right now or have dealt with change in the past and are maybe still struggling through it, I hope today's video has helped you sort of move past and move forward from that. And it is important to understand that change is inevitable, good or bad changes. And without change, there is no growth. If we don't change how we are, our situation, or the way we act, we'll just stay still, we'll plateau, we'll be stagnant. If you think about it, from when you were born to your existence now, if you think about how many changes you've been through and how with every single change you've come out of it maybe better, how you've dealt with each one, how you've transitioned and grown into the person that you are today, I think you'll see that no matter how bad or scary a change seems when you're experiencing it from the first time or when you're hit with it suddenly, unexpectedly, at the end of the day, you have the strength and the power to overcome the challenges that it brings. And if you choose to handle it the right way and embrace the change as much as possible, it will allow you to grow and it will teach you a lot of valuable lessons that will eventually make you into a much stronger and better person. And that's all from me today. Thank you so much for listening. And if you've got any comments or questions or suggestions yourself as to how you've dealt with big changes in the past, please leave a comment below and let us know. Please also follow us on all of our social media. Click like, subscribe, follow, comment on our channel. We are on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Please join our wonderful family and join in on the conversations. And please follow me on social media as well. My Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook is stellabella.au. I would love to hear from you. Thanks so much for listening today. I hope you all have a wonderful, positive, and happy week, and I'll see you next time. Bye.